Hey everyone, this is Steve Weintraub with Collider, and I am here with Sean Astin. You are in studio today to promote your new Netflix show,
Yes.
No Good Nick.
Hello there. It's good to be here promoting No Good Nick, yes. Today is the premiere day. It just dropped. The first 10 episodes dropped today.
I have so many questions for you about No Good Nick, but I have to start with, I think, the most important question, which is you got into acting at a very young age.
I did.
And it is very rare for child stars to make the transition to being successful adults without like drug problems, and I'm making sort of a generalization.
No, it's a fair generalization.
But you made the transition, and it's a very low number statistically that can do it. What do you attribute that success to being?
Pizza. No, I was going to make a drug joke, but that's terrible. No, you know, I think that what my father, John Astin, who played Gomez in the Addams Family, when I was auditioning for the Goonies, we worked together. And the thing that he really wanted to impress upon me at that moment was not to act, to just try and be as real as possible, to be as truthful as possible. And with that as a kind of guiding principle, I think it's the potential for longevity is there. Because then no matter what age you're at, whatever you're doing, if you're doing it as honestly and authentically as you can, if you're searching for the truth in it, then it'll feel valid. And that's not age specific. So, you know, obviously a work ethic. My mother taught me a good work ethic when I was a kid. I was very ambitious, so probably the hardest parts of my career when it was uncertain what would happen, I was really, you know, all over my agents and managers, and sometimes would change an agent or change a manager, and I would call them all the time, and I really hustled. There was a period of time where I really hustled hard, so that had something to do with it. My education was important to me. I'm sure that has something to do with longevity. I've been married almost 30 years, been married 27 years. The stability that comes from that, I'm sure, helps with longevity. I don't really, you know, I don't know that there's any one thing, but from a performance perspective, from an acting perspective, what allows you to give a performance at 12, and again, I'm 48 now, it's trying to be honest. And when I studied with one of the great acting teachers, Stella Adler, for a very brief period of time, her master class, she would say over and over again, and she was 91 years old, "It is the actor's job to tell the truth on stage." And I think, you know, people think acting is make-believe or pretend, but the best acting is to be as real as possible.
It's so funny you bring up Stella Adler, because I absolutely was going to ask you about it. There's not too many people left who can say that they actually studied under her.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how long did you get to work with her? And
I took her master class. Milton Justice is a guy who was, I don't know if he was artistic director of the conservatory or if he was just very close to Stella and helped her throughout the later part of her teaching career. He was a producer who won an Oscar for a movie about transvestites and transsexuals in the early 80s. He produced a movie I was in. He became a mentor to me, and so he kind of, it was at a time, 18 years old, I went and made a movie called Memphis Belle, and when I got back from Memphis Belle, it was pretty clear to me that I wasn't just going to be able to be, you know, a guy who was comfortable in front of a camera. You'd have to develop some sort of technique or you know, system for approaching your work, and so I took some classes there, and when Stella came from New York and taught a master class, I was there. I was only in front of her one time, but I saw her teach probably a dozen times, maybe a little more than that, and it was an electrifying experience, because, you know, when she had such a reputation as a legend in the American theater and a legend as a teacher, that when you have that expectation for somebody, you put that level of intensity and expectation, then when the person walks onto the stage, and she would sit on the stage just off to the side with a little desk, and she would watch the performances, and most of the time she would stop the performances and then give her lecture from there. You know, if the person's worthy, they rise to the expectation. And it was a 99-seat house. It's now, the theater is now a tram stop on the LA tram. But you know, people were just packed down the aisles and in the back, and just trying to soak up every little kernel of energy and comment, you know, and thinking that she had to offer.
Are you watching Barry?
I haven't started Barry yet. Barry, I saw my first like full scene of Barry was last night actually, and he looks blow away. I mean, he looks absolutely incredible.
I was going to say that Henry Winkler plays a acting coach.
Oh yeah.
I was going to, but that's a sidebar. Let's jump into why I get to talk to you today. What was it about this material? What was it about the show that said I want to? What excited you about it?
The genre. I was excited about doing a sitcom, a half-hour, multicam in front of a live studio audience. That's something that, my mother, Patty Duke, had the Patty Duke Show, which was a big hit, multicam in the 60s. She actually broke some ground playing identical cousins, and that was a big deal. My dad, John Astin, played Gomez in the Addams Family, which wasn't a proscenium show, but it was a hit comedy in that era. And then my little brother Mackenzie did many years on The Facts of Life. And so I always, all through the 90s, I would book these pilots, and then none of them ever went anywhere. These like half-hour sort of first episodes to see if the studio or the network would pick them up, and they never did. So it was just when I saw this one come through, I was actually doing my first play ever. I was doing the first play I've ever done in the Catskills in Ellenville at the Shadowlands Shadowland Theater, and it was a John Cleese play. It was a French farce that he had adapted from Feydeau, the French playwright, satirist, who sort of developed the farce genre in 1899, 1900, whatever. And it was incredible. It was we rehearsed for 3 weeks. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. More dialogue than all the movies I've been in put together, and I just loved it. And I actually got the call, hey, they want you for this, but you have to come out and audition. They need to see if you can do the sitcom rhythm, if you can do the comedy timing. So I flew out and did the audition. The young, let's see, our two kids, Lauren Donzis and Kalama Epstein, and where's Nick? There. Yeah, Sienna Agodon, who plays Nick, they were there at my audition. They already had the job, so they were essentially there to help me test. And they've all done sitcoms before, Nickelodeon, Disney, or whatever. And I haven't seen their shows, but they're popular. I know they're popular, and they helped me get the job, basically. And we gave each other big hugs, and they knew the rhythms of what was expected of them. Suzanne, the casting director, had worked with them to within an inch of their lives, and she worked with me. She called me on the phone in New York, and we talked for like over an hour describing what was there. And when I got there, she worked with me, and I would say something, and she'd go, no, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this. She wanted me to get the part, but they were looking for something very specific, and I had to be able to demonstrate I could do it. So it wasn't it was a hoop to jump through, to be sure.
The interesting thing about this is I believe it's 10 parts are now on Netflix, and then part 2 is airing in the fall.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what the contractual situation is, but we just finished a 20-episode season.
Sure.
And they've released the first 10, the first half of season 1, and in maybe August or September or whenever, they'll release the second half of season 1. So, but from the audience's perspective, it's 10 now, and you got to wait 6 months and 10 then.
What's interesting about the show, I saw the first 2 episodes, and there's clearly an overarching storyline that's going through these things. Yeah. Can you sort of talk a little bit about what the show is about and the fact that there is this storyline that's carrying through?
Yeah, well, what Netflix has done that's so cool is they're taking the genre and they're bending it a little bit. You've seen over the last 15, 20 years that family entertainment and family sitcoms have a particular look and a particular feel. Lockers in the school hallway, just the friends, and there's just certain tropes that go along with those things. And you can see them in this show, but it's not what this show is about. The heart of this show is actually the drama. So it's a multicam, it's in front of an audience, but the plot is kind of the real driving factor, and that's not what most sitcoms are like. So basically, Nick shows up on our door, upset, saying we're supposed to pick her up at the train station. We're like, whoa, what's going on? She claims that her parents have died, that for a year she's been in foster care, we're her only living relatives, and she's here to live with us. and we have to react to that. And I'm a typical TV dad, and I'm like, sure, great, family, come live with us, you know. And the rest of the family, or at least the mom and the son, are like, whoa, wait, are we ready to have like another kid now? Lauren's character, Molly, the daughter, is a little bit like, okay, you can stay in my room. And what you come to realize pretty quickly is that she's not actually there, that she's lying. She's there under false pretenses. She's actually a grifter, a scam artist who's been trained by her foster parents on how to steal from people. So, and it's not a random family she's chosen. She's actually targeted us because she wants to seek revenge. And you learn a little bit of that over time. But, you know, the storyline you're talking about is like, is she going to get caught? What is these foster parents, like, what's their deal? Or is our family is it gonna split our family apart? Are we gonna, you know, Liz has her restaurant, and she's independent and she's ambitious. I'm like a bank loan officer, senior loan officer at a bank. Son is very ambitious, wants to be like school president. The daughter's like, it just kind of like, there's turmoil. And because it's Netflix, they're pushing the genre. It's like, how young can they make an anti-hero? We're used to seeing Dexter and you know, The Sopranos, and you know, those kinds of shows where there's people doing bad things, but you end up kind of rooting for them. You like them anyway. And so Nick is this pretty young girl who's very, you know, a great little actress when she's trying to trick us into her emotions, but she's also under duress. You know, the truth is that her father is. Anyhow, well, you learn pretty quickly.
It's in episode 2.
Well, you see the guy every review has mentioned it, and all the different shows have mentioned it. But there's a guy in the jumpsuit, the orange jumpsuit, calling from a prison, and he's saying to her, "I need money. I need money now. I need money to get out of here for my lawyer. I need money because of these people that are after me." And so she's sort of like she's manipulated by the foster parents. She's provoked by her dad, who's sort of playing a con on her. She's playing a con on us. And even though we've got a studio audience that's laughing, you know, there's a lot of times where they're like, what? You know, you kind of like, did we lose them? Did we lose the audience? They're hanging on every word. They want to see if she gets caught. You know, they want, and some of the drama, when you hurt people, it's scary and it's sad, and it's like, whoa, it's not a sitcom. It's a drama thriller kind of thing. So it's a genre bending thing that's trying to be appealing to young people and families, but young people, particularly young girls, who can look up to her. She's, like I said, she's pretty, her clothes are cool, she's nice, she's smart, but then she's like doing stuff that you're not supposed to do. And what is the moral outcome of that? You know, and it's not every episode gets wrapped up like most sitcoms where, okay, the morality is reset and you can start the episode fresh. This is like, wait a minute, what just happened? You want to see the next episode.
Yeah, for binge culture.
Binge culture, binge watching, yeah.
I'm curious, when you got the job and everything, did they lay out to you, like, here's our ultimate plan, we're thinking, you know, ultimately where it's going to go? Or it's sort of like, okay, well, we know where it's going in these first 20 episodes, let's see what happens?
They had been, it's a great question. David and Kichi, our bosses, the showrunners, had some time with it. It seems fast in the kind of macro look at it, but from a micro sense, they had like 6-7 months where they knew they were doing it. So they had written a lot of the scripts. We didn't see a lot of them, but they actually pretty early on sat the actors down independently. They're like, listen, we want you to know where your character is going. We want you to know where this is going. And they laid it out for us, which was really helpful. But then, of course, an episode later, you forget all that, and you're just kind of in the moment trying to figure out how to deliver those beats, you know, as well as can be delivered.
This is your first quote-unquote sitcom, if you will. What surprised you about the making of a sitcom, and what do you wish maybe you knew going in, if anything?
Well, I knew a lot theoretically about it. I knew what the on paper what the rhythm of the week is. You know, it's a very specific work week. It's a factory job. You know, so Monday you do a table read, and then that's over, and then maybe a little bit of rehearsal, but that day ends very early. Then that night you get some changes. Then you do a studio, or you do the creators get a run through on Tuesday. The network gets a run through on Wednesday. Then there's a pre-shoot on Thursday, and then the tape in front of the audience on on Friday. You come in later, and that's your nighttime experience. I think. There's just some of the technical stuff, things that after doing like 80 movies you'd think would just be internalized, but somehow, what a two-shot looks like in the 4-camera situation to the director, Melissa just knows it. The kids know it because they've done it before. And it took me 5 or 6 episodes to realize if you lean on your right, that's what they're looking for. And if that's a single and you find this, just some of those little technical things would have been good. And then the other thing, I'm not sure that much was surprising to me, other than I wish that. I thank God for me that I did that John Cleese play, and I learned the rhythm of the audience's laughter and how a extra few moments of silence can extend the laugh, or that you can there's a kind of rolling laugh that you can do, and when to come back in with the next line. That thing about in comedy, being in sync with what your audience is doing and really pushing to let them have a good time. It's a lot less kind of there's a lot less latitude in the sitcom world because they know exactly what they want, and your job, you don't have the freedom to improvise. You have the freedom to try and give them exactly what they're looking for. So. I don't know that I didn't know that, but it's just the experience, really. I don't know that I was surprised by much, but I definitely needed episodes and 4 or 5 episodes before I felt like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing here.
So you're basically saying we should watch your performance get better in episode 6 on?
I'd say 4.
Got it.
I'd say episode. This is just friends and family here, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it's appreciably stronger performances after episode 4.
Yeah, I did notice in the first 2 you were the weak part.
I was the weak link for sure.
It was definitely a problem.
It's easy to be the weak link around these great people.
I'm completely effing with you. 100%.
I'm not.
Right. You've been.
I remember I was afraid in pilot world, you lose your job all the time. They're always replacing the actors in the pilots. So you go through a whole negotiation and you sign a thing that's for like 37 years of your life. They own you, lock, stock, and barrel, and you do the first table read, and then the agent's like, listen, they're going to recast, So I think it took 2 or 3 weeks before I was convinced that I wasn't going to get recast every 5 seconds,
Did you film this here in L.A.?
Yeah, we were in L.A. over at, I'm not supposed to, I said the other day and I got in trouble, but in Hollywood.
Somewhere in L.A.
In Hollywood, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, if people want to do their homework, it was on the same stages that my little brother did The Facts of Life. And that Ted McGinley, who plays one of the foster parents, Harbaugh, it's the Harbaughs, I can't remember his first name in it, but Harbaughs, did Married with Children.
I did notice
you can triangulate from that.
Yeah, it's not hard to figure out. I know it's one of the studio. I know I'm taking a wild stab. I know where it is. It's one of the 3 places, Hollywood Boulevard or Sunset. But switching off that, I'm curious. You have been in such movies that really mean a lot to people. When was the last time you had to pay for a drink?
I often think that if I work so hard.
Right.
I'm always working. I'm giving speeches. I'm going to conventions. Occasionally, I get to act in movies and television. I'm always grinding it out, and I do think sometimes, like, boy, if my energy gives out and I just can't earn anymore, at least I'll be able to, go from house to house like Kane and on the road, and there'll be meals waiting for me. So I do. That is a nice feeling, actually.
I would imagine in certain sports towns it would be even more applicable.
And dangerous in other ones.
That's also very true. You've actually done, and I think you have a Comic-Con coming up. You've done Comic-Cons.
It's 100 of them.
Exactly. What do you take away? Do you enjoy doing those? What is it like meeting the fans who genuinely love what you've done and the entertainment that you've provided for them?
Well, so just now I finished our shooting schedule is 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and the 1 week is a hiatus for the writers to get their bearings again and work on the next coming episodes based on whatever we've done. So during my hiatus weeks, I've been fortunate enough to do several episodes of The Big Bang Theory. And I've been a fan of that show since the first episode, from the pilot episode. Just absolutely a huge fan of that show. And what I realized when I was doing my guest spots, or what was reaffirmed for me, is how after 12 years, that show has moved culture. It's changed culture. It's empowered geeks and nerds to feel a sense of agency. And so conventions, which used to be, the nerd flags are flying high here in Glendale.
Exactly.
No, but I mean, people who like science fiction, fantasy, genre fare, books, movies, comic books, whatever, now they'll frequent these regional Comic-Cons with their families, and it's just a much more kind of broadly accepted entertainment now. For me, for me, it's a paid public appearance. I get paid to give speeches at mental health speeches. I go to colleges and give speeches, corporate speeches. I'm lucky. I get to, people. I've got my degree from UCLA, history and American literature and culture. I've done a lot of things that make me kind of marketable in the speaking world. The Comic-Con appearances are absolutely vital to my experience now, because having been a part of some of these pop culture phenomenon, I think it adjusts kind of the way that people in the industry think of you in terms of what parts you might be able to play. And I think in some ways it makes it more appealing for people to hire you. And I think in some ways there still is a kind of bias against that. It took forever for the Academy to recognize a fantasy film for Best Picture, and now it's becoming a little bit more common. But the corollary to that is I go to cities all over the country and all over the world where hundreds and hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people will come out, and they'll stand in line to see me or to see all my acting colleagues who are there. So, they want autographs signed. We do photo op experiences. We do a Q&A, and the experience is the same all over the world. People who love that kind of stuff, who love Goonies and Lord of the Rings, and even the ones who love 50 First Dates and certainly Stranger Things, there's a genuine enthusiasm, a patience. They are happy to stand in the line for a long time, and they're just so grateful when they come up and they interact with you. They just say it's such an ego boost. They say thank you. They say thank you for this movie meant so much to me. A lot of people who suffer from depression come up to me and say that it helped them, that Lord of the Rings helped them get through a very dark time in their life. That's a common experience. There's just a whole range of experiences that oftentimes are not unique, but they're always powerful. They're always moving. And so I'm grateful to be able to make money to put my kids through college, and I'm also honored that I get to come and touch the fans directly and interact with them personally.
I am a huge fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
So let's compare. Cooler to be on Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Big Bang Theory? I want to get you in trouble. I'm joking.
Well, do you know the story of why I was involved with Big Bang Theory?
I don't actually know the real reason why you got. I know you've been on a few episodes though, playing.
Just one.
Oh, I thought you.
And Big Bang Theory, yeah. Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get you to answer. Do you know the theory between what happened that maybe be a part of Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Sorry.
Were you one of the people that was tweeting positive things about it getting renewed, or?
Yes, it started negative, and then I realized that it wasn't probably a good idea to antagonize a company that might hire me at some point in the future. So I moved it into just sort of a melancholy, plaintive wail over why Brooklyn Nine-Nine was being canceled, because I felt like those characters and that show and that comedy and what it was doing had earned the right to have a victory lap and a final season. Like, if they were going to cancel it, okay, shows can't live forever, but at least let them and let the audience know that this is it, and they can wind up the characters properly in the way they want to, so that you don't feel like, boy, I wonder what would have happened if they would have gotten to finish that show. I thought they had earned that, and Fox canceled it. So yes, I was one of there were several of us who are known people who were doing that. Do you know who we were?
I believe Guillermo del Toro.
Correct, Amanda.
Lin-Manuel.
Miranda,
Yeah, I butchered his name, which is embarrassing.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, you were close, yeah.
You.
Me.
And I know there's another person or two, but I'm not remembering the...
Seth Meyers.
Got it, yeah.
And, and Mark Hamill.
Oh, yes,
and Mark
true.
Hamill. So we were all tweeting away our disappointment, our sadness, our rage, and some fan took the Guardians from the Galaxy poster and superimposed our images on the character. I was Gamora, if memory serves, and they changed the text to say Guardians of the 99. And so all of a sudden they kind of made it like a thing, the Guardians of the 99, and we ended up, the 5 of us got on a private group chat on Twitter, direct messaging each other, and 36 hours later, NBC picked up the show. So, which I believe they would have done anyway, because of that's who started the show, and I think they wanted it back all along.
Let's take a little credit to you guys.
We became kind of ambassadors for a very virulent campaign to have it stay on, and so getting to act on the show was just totally surreal. I love those characters so much. I didn't ask to be on the show. I didn't call my agent and say, hey, we did this Guardians thing. Can you see if they're going to have me? Like, I think I earned a spot. No, sure. I'm just a fan of the show. And when I got the letter from Dan, I almost cried. I was just like, I can't believe I get to do this. And sitting there, Andre Braugher's like, he's so dry, and I just thought, this guy hates me. Like, he doesn't know the whole 9/9 thing. And if he did, I actually felt bad when I showed up to the set. I was like, you know what? I'm so sorry that it became a storyline. Like, when they got picked up and they were being interviewed for what was it like to go through this process and get picked up, people were saying, so I understand, Lin-Manuel Miranda or Mark Hamill or Sean Astin were like, what do you think? And they had to incorporate our storyline into their triumphant re-pickup story.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm also thinking about all the crew and all the people that got to keep their jobs because the show came back. There's so many times that I think people lose track of. It's not just the actors.
That's right.
It's all those people with their jobs.
That's right.
That now are, their lives, you know what I mean?
And they were, look, switching to Big Bang Theory for a minute, they're coming up on they're in the last episode or 2 of the show. The series finale is coming up, and that's 12 years. We on this show, we just finished our 20th episode, and we were all heartsick. It was sad. You look at the crew, a lot of them are going to go on to whatever the next show is, but they don't know yet what it's going to be. And if the show was to get picked up, then we want the same crew back, because we're like family with them now. So I can't imagine what 12 years of saying goodbye to a crew is, and what those people are going to look forward to with their next show. Like, how do you go on to season 1 of some new show after you've been on Big Bang Theory for 12 years? It's very emotional. TV's different than most, jobs, I think, in the world.
Well, I think a lot of people don't realize you end up spending more time because the hours are so long. When you're making, certain shows, the hours are so long that you spend more time on set with these people than you do your actual family.
Well, the great thing is you get to go home to your family, which is not the case on a lot of movies, but it is a lot longer, particularly if you're the parents. The parents on a kid's show work longer hours because, the young performers have a shorter number of work hours they're allowed to do, and they have to get 3 hours of school in. So if there's scenes that the parents are in that the young performers are not, they come in early and do those, and then when the kids finish their day, the older performers, kind of extend the day that way. So it definitely is like, oh, okay, we're but it's as it should be. It's as it should be.
Completely. You've done a lot of voiceover work.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I looked at your list. The list goes on and on and on. How much fun is it doing that kind of stuff? And because you've made, even if you did nothing else, you have a very, very long track record with voiceover.
To hear you say that just blows my mind, because there were many years, decades in fact, 3 decades. Well, I guess you don't count the first decade, but from the time I was 12 or 13 until the time I was 31, I could not get a job doing it. It's a very tight-knit group of people, the voiceover world, and if you're not in it, it's just very hard to break in. And it wasn't until I did Lord of the Rings and we had 6-7 weeks of voice training, voice coaching before we started working on the trilogy, talking about the diaphragm and your teeth and your tongue and your cheeks, and talking about pitch and just creating sounds, just very basic mechanical stuff that sounds silly, but when you really invest the time working on it, it changes how you hear yourself, which is really the ball game when it comes to doing voiceovers. You can't just do what you think is working. You have to be able to hear what they're hearing. And when they make a little note or a comment from the other side of the glass, the engineers or the directors or whoever, you have to be able to respond to it. And if you can't hear yourself, which was my problem, it just doesn't work. So, but then I came back from New Zealand, I started getting jobs, and now for you to be able to say, that I've got this like body of work of voice acting, it just makes me so emotional. It's incredible. I love it. It's fun. We're here in Glendale. Burbank and Glendale is where most of the voiceover acting gets done. And so just driving over here in the car, you get that anxiety feeling. The neurology starts hitting that you're going to be doing one of these shows. So most of them are wrapped up now. I mean, Turtles is done. Agent Oso is done. Micronauts is done. I don't know if Captain Underpants is coming back. Banicula is done. All these things that represented, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of work, of like steady voiceover work, are wrapped up. So can we call my voiceover agent? I'm feeling a little like, naked right now.
I definitely have to touch on Stranger Things. It is now still, I think, one of the most popular things on Netflix. Even the episodes that have been out for a year or whatever. When you have a big role in season 2.
Yeah.
When did you realize
season 2? And only season 2.
Well, I'm trying to be, a little
diplomatic. People know at this point.
I mean, most people. It's been on. Many people have watched.
I'm eaten by dogs, and it's not a metaphor.
When did you? Because season 1 was very popular.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, season 2 obviously eclipsed what season 1 was. What has it been like being part of something that popular? Because I would imagine, that's a whole new generation of people that literally know you just from Stranger Things.
It absolutely is, and I mean, I don't know. Netflix is very protective about its numbers. So I
can tell you based on traffic, Stranger Things is awfully popular.
Really?
Yeah.
Based on what traffic?
On the site called Collider.
Oh, on Collider, yeah.
Right, yeah. So
you guys can observe that?
I can.
How's this show doing right now?
I can't tell you anything yet, but I'll tell you when.
How long do I have to wait? I don't have patience.
At least 3 days. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
So they had a movie.
So I'm clicking on Collider in 3 days, and I'm gonna have a basic sense of how we're doing?
No, but I could say 3 days just to make you happy. You remember this movie they did last Christmas called Bird Box?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bird Box, we were covering Bird Box, and I didn't really know much about the movie. Like, I knew Sandra Bullock, whatever. And we were covering a number of articles, and I was seeing the traffic on Bird Box eclipsing everything. It was just so high, and I said, what the F is this movie? Like, how are so many people reading all this stuff? And then I realized, oh, it's huge.
So the public is the aggregator.
Well, no. And then when they announced that like 45 or 50 million or 70 million people had watched it, I'm like, oh, well, this explains it.
Right.
Because I could just see the traffic.
And something like that with Stranger Things 2.
Stranger Things is next level.
Listen, if it wasn't for Stranger Things 2 and me playing Bob Newby, who is this loving, sweet, wannabe, like stepdad to Will, who brought such gentle energy to Winona Ryder's character, Joyce, who was suffering with her children and suffering monsters and all this, and it's like a nice little thing, and then he dies this heroic death, Netflix saw that, and now I'm the dad of a kid show. I don't think there's any kind of like mystery about the journey from one to the other, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to the Duffer Brothers. In terms of fandom, my number one interface with that is these regional Comic-Cons that I go to, and it's powerful. It's powerful, the kids' reactions, and they lay out pictures like, what do you want an autograph for? And there's these like tug of wars between the parents who want Goonies and the kids who want Stranger Things, and listen, I just keep boxing on, and I love it. What can I say? It's great.
Yeah, I have to touch one of my all-time favorite movies is Goonies.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be? Do you think there's been a lot of talk over the years of like a sequel and stuff? Do you think it actually ever happens, or do you think there's an element of like that movie is so special and so good that like not everything needs a sequel? I mean, I'm sort of torn. You know what I mean?
Well, for 20 years, my answer to that question was an unequivocal yes, there will be a proper sequel. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Just certainty. Well, that that's gone. Now I think we've probably passed the threshold for which, all of us original cast members are right for doing a sequel. But the audience is so powerful and so devoted to it that it will. I'm absolutely convinced that it will at the very least be rebooted, which I would be fine with. I think if it's not as good as the original Goonies, then okay, who cares? It's out there and whatever. But I think Spielberg has been waiting for whatever that magical, mystical secret sauce is, and he just hasn't found it yet. So he hasn't pulled the trigger because he just doesn't want it to be done improperly. And he's so busy. I don't know if he could do it himself. And Dick Donner wants it. They wanted a musical out of it. I've always said it should be a cartoon, like a Saturday morning cartoon. Nothing is this beloved and this in demand for such a long period of time and not getting done. It just has to get done. It has to.
I was going to say that for me, the one advantage of waiting this long to do it is a lot of these sequels that have been made now have incorporated real time to help tell the sequel story. So I was going to say that there's actually enough time now where a lot of the people that were in the Goonies could have families and their kids could be the ones that go on.
We've been like that for 20 years. My daughter's 22. You know what I mean? It's like it could have been that at any point. I don't know, man. I just feel like it would be great to get a call one day to say like, hey, would you like to do a cameo in Spielberg's Goonies reboot? Or, I think it's just highly unlikely that they would be like, here's the script, you're the lead again, or you're like the co-lead. There's whoever the young kids are, and then the old pair. I just don't. Corey Feldman and I put together a 3-act treatment for it, and we pitched it to Dick Donner, and it never got made. But we pitched it to him, and the whole time his eyes were closed, and it was really cool. Well,
right.
We thought it was great. We had really worked out, and afterwards he goes, "Boy, you guys really thought about this." We're like, "Yeah, we have. What do you think?" He goes, "Yeah, we're not doing that." so you're like, okay.
When was the last time you were at Notre Dame? Or in that area? And when was the last time you paid for a meal in that area?
That's funny. You're good. The free meals are important to you.
Listen, you can't go wrong with free meals.
I'll buy you lunch, man, if you need it.
You can't. I got to be honest. Collider doesn't. They do pay me in the ketchup packets, and it is a real problem.
Well. Yeah, there's a lot of sugar. The glucose is high in the sugar in the
explains a lot about me.
No, I go there for politics a lot. I've been there for screenings. What do we do? We do the exact last time. It's funny. Pete Buttigieg is making a hell of a run right now for the Democratic nomination. He's raising a ton of money. The crowds are big. Every time, Trump hasn't gone after him yet. He hasn't figured out how to go after him. I think it was last time I was there. I had dinner with him and his family, so that was kind of pretty cool.
I'm actually.
I can't remember the exact reason. It was for Hillary. It was campaigning for Hillary Clinton.
It was. He has impressed me with what he has said and done thus far.
Yeah. It's very early, and our country, for better or worse, and mostly worse, loves to build people up and then tear them down. So I don't know what personal stuff he has in his life. I don't know what faux pas is going to happen. But as a guy who, you wouldn't think a small city mayor or a mid-city mayor could be the president of the United States, but the only requirement in the Constitution is that you be born in the United States, 35 years old. I think those are the only two. Is there a third one?
No, I think those are the two.
Those
keys.
are the two. You got it. Yeah, and he satisfies both those. Did you know that I'm not even promoting him. I haven't said who I support or not, but you're just watching this phenomenon unfold, and you sort of think, wow, could this little guy? He's literally short, and when I say little, I just mean physically. He's short. He's a hobbit. With this goofy name, he's gay. He's married, and you just think, is that the guy who could take down the ugly American? And maybe he could. I just think that's so interesting.
I don't want to open the door on politics because obviously I feel like you do.
Yeah.
I will just say that I get nervous. I think that his message and what he has said has been great. I get nervous that the country is a lot more racist and a lot more closed-minded than I thought that they were. And
Well, I would say that that enough of the country is racist and closed-minded that it can swamp the conversation. I don't know that a majority of the people are racist, but it's people who aren't racist need to speak up louder and clearer.
completely. I think it is as important as ever.
Particularly in the South. I've made a couple of movies in the South, 3 movies in the South, in Birmingham, Alabama. 2 in Birmingham. What was the other one? I did one in Florida. I guess that's technically in the South. Stranger Things is filmed in Georgia. And the people I know there, the working people I know there that I've visited with are good, decent people. They're not racist at all. But boy, the region puts out an energy, and they need to figure out how to combat that image that gets sent out.
Completely. Yeah, listen, I could do politics for 30 minutes because I feel very strongly, but I don't want to get you in trouble.
I did a Twitter pause on politics to relate so that my energy towards the family show would not be co-opted. But you asked where I was last in South Bend.
Completely.
The answer is I was there campaigning for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Listen, anyone but Trump. I'll say it like that. Anyone but Trump. So wrapping up with you, I just have a few quick things. What TV show do you want to guest star on?
Oh my gosh, I would have said Big Bang Theory and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, but now, gosh, my daughter has me watching Gilmore Girls, but that's over, so it can't be Gilmore Girls.
I've actually had people say shows that have ended.
Yeah.
So
West Wing. Yeah.
There we go.
What other shows? What other shows are out there right now? Is New Girl going away?
That's been off now. Yeah.
New Girl's off, 100% off.
Yeah, it ended.
I guess. Well, see, there you go. All the old shows, I guess. I don't know. My dream came true. The 2 that are my favorites, I got to do.
Yeah,
so.
you won the lottery with that, without a doubt.
I did.
What TV show have you watched all the way through more than once?
Like series?
Yeah.
Well, Friends and West Wing, I've gone through all seasons more than once. Will and Grace.
Sure. These all work, by the way.
That's true. What else? We've New Girl, except for not all completed. How I Met Your Mother.
Yep.
Yeah, that one we've watched all of those. I probably Cheers. I think I've hit every Cheers episode. I'm just naming comedies except for West Wing.
I see what the priorities at home are. Comedies.
Well, it's our family bonding. We actually really the kids aren't outdoor kids that much. That's our jam.
Sure.
We watch, and I think we've let our kids watch programs that might be a little age inappropriate. So. But that's just we just love those shows, and that's how we are with our kids. But this show is, by all the people who tell you whether it's appropriate for families, it scores very well on all the categories. I think once or twice we drink wine when we're away from the kids, so that's like a little bit of a thing for some people. But no.
Well, you almost drank wine in the second episode. Or maybe you do drink some wine in the second episode.
It's open on the table.
Yeah.
It's open on the table, yeah.
Nothing wrong
with it. It's funny, it was a discussion with Netflix and with the creators of the show, and their attitude was like, no, we want this to have a real feeling, and we don't want to talk down to families. And obviously, if you watch Big Bang Theory, she's got that wine in every scene practically. But no, I mean, they try and reflect a little bit of, these are successful working people, and that's what people do.
It's real life.
Yeah.
Listen, I could go on and on, but I'm just going to stop there and say I really mean it. Thank you so much for coming in studio.
Thank you for having me.
And I really hope the show is a huge hit.
Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime.
I'll only know based on what you tell me. It was Collider.
Yes.
So tell me about Collider. So Collider, let me interview for her. What is Collider?
We have at least 5 readers a month. We have 10 readers on video.
But readers, how many journalists are there?
We have a really big staff, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Like 30 people?
No. We have like 7 full-time on the website.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that work here on the video side.
Okay.
And started.
What's your job?
I'm editor-in-chief of the website.
You are editor-in-chief of Collider.
I also started.
I've taken you away from your core duties for like a half hour.
I'm actually.
Is it collapsing? Somebody
Yes.
ask if Collider's collapsing out there.
I actually started the site in July. We went live in July of 2005, and it turned in my bedroom, and it turned into all this.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's pretty
incredible.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, I really appreciate letting me come and
Please,
talk about No Good Nick.
I really mean it. Big fan of yours. I'm super happy you came in.
Thank you so much for having
real.
me.